The big football powers are still doing their thing. Argentina, France, Germany, Spain, all marching forward, scoring goals, behaving exactly like the favorites are expected to. But here's something about this World Cup that nobody at FIFA really wants to admit out loud. The Giants aren't the real story here. The underdogs are. This tournament doesn't belong to the powerhouses. It belongs to the dark horses, the smaller nations, the underestimated teams nobody believed in. And right now, they're the ones running the show. That's FIFA's biggest fear playing out live. Think about why this 48-team World Cup exists in the first place. FIFA expanded it from 32 teams to 48 for one simple reason. More teams means more matches, and more matches means more revenue. But buried inside that plan was a quiet assumption that smaller nations would show up, take their losses, fill out the bracket, and then step aside so the big marketable football giants could march toward the later stages where the massive TV audiences and serious money are. The smaller teams were basically expected to be filler, easy wins on the road, to the matches that actually generate buzz. Instead, they refused to play that role, and the group stage turned into a graveyard for that whole plan. Upsets happened on nearly every match day. Traditional powerhouses were pushed to their limits, while a wave of newcomers and long shots made history. The expanded format didn't dilute the tournament like critics predicted. It actually increased the number of teams capable of producing something special. The people who claimed this format would lead to lopsided, boring matches had it completely backwards. Out of all the underdog stories so far, one in particular stunned the entire world last night, and it might be the most emotional moment of the whole tournament. The Democratic Republic of Congo. To really grasp what they just pulled off, you need to understand their history. The last time Congo appeared at a World Cup was 1974, back when the nation was still called Zaire. They were the first sub-Saharan African country to ever qualify, and the experience was brutal. They lost all 3 matches by a combined score of 14-0. After that, 52 years passed with nothing. No World Cup appearances, no return to the world stage, just a long footballing drought. So when Congo showed up in 2026 and managed to draw 1-1 against Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal in their opening match, that alone felt like a miracle. A 1-0 loss to Colombia then left them right on the edge of elimination, setting up a do-or-die final group match against Uzbekistan. Win, and they'd reach the knockout stage of a World Cup for the first time ever. But before getting into the match itself, there's a detail that says a lot about how chaotic this World Cup has been off the field. Congo's most beloved supporter is a fan known as Lumumba Veya, someone who's become a true symbol in the stands, instantly recognizable for standing completely eerily motionless during matches while everyone around him erupts in celebration. He's an icon for the Leopards and for this defining moment in his country's footballing history. But he wasn't there. Why? Because his visa to enter the United States was denied. Let that sink in. On the night Congo made history, their most recognizable fan was stuck back home, unable to cross the border simply because the host country and tournament organizers couldn't sort out their entry process properly. And he wasn't alone in that experience. This has been a recurring issue throughout the 2026 World Cup. Fans holding valid tickets have been denied visas, supporters have been shut out, even officials have been turned away at borders. FIFA promised the world a unified tournament spanning 3 countries, yet a significant number of the people who give the World Cup its meaning couldn't even get in. So one of the defining images of Congo's biggest night ever was actually an absence. The empty space where their most iconic fan should have been standing, perfectly still. As for the match itself, the pressure on these players was almost overwhelming. Hours before kickoff, Congo's president released a statement telling the team that more than 100 million Congolese people were behind them. Families, elders, soldiers, workers, children, and the diaspora, all of it. 11 players carrying the hopes of 100 million people. And at first, that weight got to them. As striker Yon Wissa later admitted, they started the match poorly because of just how much pressure they felt. Uzbekistan scored after only 20 seconds, though it was ruled out for offside, then scored again 9 minutes in. And that one stood. A potential Congo equalizer was disallowed by VAR for a handball. It looked like the nightmare scenario was unfolding in real time, but then came the turning point. Congo earned a penalty, and Wissa stepped up and converted it. Then, as the match neared its end, he struck again with a precise finish to make it 3-1. In that moment, a nation of 100 million people erupted. Congo's players dropped to the grass, completely overwhelmed, their first ever World Cup win, and their first time ever reaching the knockout stage. Wissa captured it perfectly. Afterward, they came from nothing to get here, and now they're writing their own story, one they can be proud of. From nothing to the round of 32, their reward is a matchup against England, one of the strongest teams in the world, and Wissa wouldn't want it any other way, saying they've earned the right to face England, that the Lions are waiting, and that the Leopards know exactly how to respond. And here's the thing, Congo isn't an isolated story. Not even close. This World Cup has completely dismantled the idea that smaller nations don't belong on this stage. You already know about Cape Verde, the tiny island nation of roughly 500,000 people that drew with Spain, drew with Uruguay, and finished second in their group to reach the knockouts in their debut tournament, all without winning a single match. The smallest nation by population ever to advance this far, but the bigger pattern is just as remarkable. African football has had one of its best World Cups in history. Out of the 10 African nations competing, only Tunisia failed to make it to the second round. 9 out of 10 advanced, including Morocco, Senegal, Ghana, Egypt, Cote d'Ivoire, South Africa, Cape Verde, Algeria, and DR Congo. An entire continent refused to simply be easy wins for bigger teams. South Africa beat South Korea 1-0 in a winner-takes-second place showdown. Ghana held England to a draw, denying them a full win. Ecuador shocked Germany. Time and again, the so-called giants were getting tripped up by teams they were expected to easily beat. Maybe the most heartwarming underdog story, though, belongs to co-host Canada, a team with a genuinely painful World Cup history. Before this tournament, Canada had never scored a single World Cup goal in their entire history, partly due to the harsh reality of being a football nation where weather makes year-round play extremely difficult. Then, this tournament changed everything. In their opening match, they drew 1-1 and finally scored their first ever World Cup goal. In their second match, they didn't just win, they crushed their opponent 6-0, securing their first ever World Cup victory and advancing past the group stage for the first time in their history. 3 records broken in a single week on home soil, from never scoring a goal to a 6-0 blowout and a knockout stage spot. And let's not overlook the other co-host quietly thriving right now, Mexico. While the underdog stories grabbed most of the headlines, Mexico went out and won all 3 of their group matches, earning a perfect 9 points and establishing themselves as one of the most informed teams of the entire tournament. The hosts clearly aren't just here to fill out the bracket either, so here's what makes this whole situation so painful for FIFA. They built a bigger tournament expecting the giants to dominate and the smaller nations to fade away quietly. Instead, the underdogs have become the main story, and now they're loose in the knockout rounds, where a single result can end a Giants tournament. Congo now face England. Cape Verde face Messi's Argentina. Every one of these underdog teams now stands directly in the way of a glamorous, high-revenue favorite advancing further. Every time an underdog wins, it means a major nation goes home early, and the further these teams go, the more FIFA's carefully planned profit-driven bracket falls apart. But underneath all of that lies the real truth, and honestly, it's what makes this tournament so special. This is what the World Cup is actually meant to be about. Not just powerhouses like Argentina and France steamrolling through with cold efficiency, but moments like Congo living out the dreams of 100 million people during their brief time in the spotlight. A team that once lost 14-0 back in 1974, now in tears on the pitch in 2026 because they finally made it. As Wissa put it, they're a proud country and a proud people, and they just showed exactly what it means for them to fight no matter what. FIFA built this tournament for the Giants. What they ended up with is a tournament for everyone, and honestly, it's so much better this way. Which underdog are you backing heading into the knockout rounds? Congo against England, Cape Verde against Messi, or someone else entirely? Let me know who you're rooting for, and subscribe so you don't miss it if one of these dark horses pulls off something impossible.